Hi, Sasha. Just to introduce myself, I'm Lowell Greenblatt. I write for Macabre Daily. And Grafted was one of the best films I saw at the Brooklyn Horror Film Fest last year, and it was one of my favorite horror films of 2024, hands down. So, congratulations on making the leap to features. This is your first feature after making shorts, is that correct?
It is, yeah. Thank you so much as well. Made
Yeah.
me grin from ear to ear.
Yeah, of course. But, I'm sort of fascinated with how films are put together. I've worked on film sets before, and, I know it's incredibly difficult to make a film. So can you talk a little bit about like what you learned from shorts that you brought to your feature experience?
Oh man, that's a big question.
Yeah, I know. Fullest
I
or the first, the thing you learned the most, I guess.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, so a little sort of confession. I didn't go to film school. So everything I do is a learning process, and part of shorts, was really learning about, first of all, directing actors, but also storytelling. Like, how do you carve a little story out? And when it gets to feature size, really, I think you have to kind of go into the microcosm of each scene and what it means, and then be able to pull out and look at it in a sort of bird's eye view, and that's the job of the director to be able to kind of go in really, really tiny into details and then still keep a hold of the wider idea. But I don't think anything could have prepared me for this. To be honest with you. Because, I mean, not only was it my first feature, it was like an ensemble cast with, actors playing several roles, a dog, multiple locations, prosthetics. I mean, talk about like being thrown into the baptism of fire. Um, so, really it was about having that script as the guiding light and keeping hold of that truth of what I wanted to explore, because all of the sort of the horror and the satire and everything, that's all kind of like icing on the cake of like the journey that your characters are going through. And then casting, making sure that I got the right people who are there to play with me, and like bring everything, which I think they did.
Definitely. You've kind of just fallen into my next question, which was I don't want to spoil anything too much, but you have three actors playing the same character throughout. And I was kind of astounded at like the same they they're calibrated on the same level. Like it's all really an accomplishment. Can you talk about how you sort of got them there? Or were they just wonderful from the start and you're like, all right, action, let's do this?
That was the part that I was most apprehensive about in making this film. Like, am I going to be able to pull this off? And it definitely came down to the casting, like a willingness and ability for the actors to play such sort of opposites. Because like not many people can go there. The journey of our main character is so extreme that they all needed to be able to tap into the different moments and where they were at the time. But I'll tell you what, I only had 2 rehearsal days, so that's part of the reason I was freaking out. And it was really about like, okay, I've got this limited amount of time. First of all, build trust. Like, I need them to know that they can go there and they will be safe, and it will make this movie the best movie it can be if they let loose. Secondly, like trusting each other and getting in sync with each other. And we did that through like a lot of actual physical activity. And like we had the sort of core character in the center of it beginning, and then created these mannerisms and these movements. And they sort of had to dance around the room and follow each other's movements and sort of visually experience or physically experience the journey of where she'd end up, which is, from a very shy, sort of, if we're talking the coming of age sort of theme here, very shy, sort of in the shadows type personality, to literally flying. I mean, not literally flying, but almost levitating, almost. Um,
Kidding.
so yeah, so it was about getting them on sort of into the same body, and then sharing their story and their journey as we were filming, which of course is complicated because you're going back and forth in time. It's not linear when you're filming a movie. So kudos to them. I mean, what brilliant young actresses.
Yeah, I mean, and of course you were there to guide them. I mean, it's such a big swing for a first movie. I mean, even like the idea of directing a movie to me, even if it's just two people talking, seems like a lot, but like you have actors playing different characters, multiple characters. You have special effects that are they can be like big and grand and goopy, or they can be very subtle. Can you talk at all about the your journey with the effects? Like how do you settle on the people to do them? How'd they all come about?
I mean that was really complicated, I have to say, because every moment that you were sort of showing a deterioration of what was going on, um, you had to work out in your shoot day and in that one scene where they were meant to be at in the journey. And so, like you said, there were real subtleties. And if we messed that up, it would not link with the next scene. It was pretty challenging. And so we had to make some decisions about like what were the key moments that really, through the gore and the effects, tell the story. And let's put most of our energy into that because, we're not a huge budget. We've got to work out, what our main contenders are. And then, how much time we have. Because as we all know with blood and goop, it makes a mess. You can't just go sort of like bloodying up the whole room and then be like, we need to start again from like clean, next take. So there's all these elements. Involved. And I have to just say, it was a lot of fun. Um, we did most things practically, but we also had, sorry to say, we had VFX come in and help add that little icing on the cake in certain moments. We just wouldn't have had the time and the money. And, the fun part is really like seeing it in camera, but I am so grateful that we have the technology now that like can come on a smaller budget film and like just help it get to that next level. Um, so yeah, so that was a really fun part. And then not to forget sound. Sound is like such a massive part. Like you can show something quite subtle, and I've ever since making this film, I've been a lot more aware of it. Like you can show someone like falling and seemingly hitting their head on the edge of a table, but what is actually getting you is the sound of the crack. And so sound was, and I always knew sound was going to be a lot of fun to play with here. So they all kind of go hand in hand. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't want to interrupt you, but yeah, I was gonna say you know that there's CGI, but it's like how CGI really should be used, which is to augment good practical effects. It's like an exclamation point instead of like the whole sentence. And I thought that worked really well. And speaking of like sound effects of heads getting crushed, you made me think of the Russell Crowe Les Mis effect. Are you familiar with that?
No, tell me.
So, have you seen Les Mis with Russell Crowe and Hugh Jackman?
I have, but it may have been about 5 years ago or something like that.
So spoiler for the Les Mis movie. Um, Russell Crowe's character dies, and he jumps to his death, and he hits his head, but it's like the most like bonk, like you feel it, and it's just so and that just made me think of what you were saying about sound. It's 100% correct.
I have to watch it again now with that in mind.
Yeah, it's actually really good. But so I imagine that by now you're sick of people asking you if you're a David Cronenberg fan. Um, but I'm gonna ask, are you a David Cronenberg fan?
I would be really skeptical of any filmmaker who wasn't.
That's an amazing answer. Good.
Come on.
Uh, yeah,
Any, anyone who gets shit done, you know what I mean? Like I just like, yeah, admire these filmmakers, who tell stories in their own way and don't let anything stop them. And he's like up there in that, absolutely.
Totally. Well, I was going to ask because, yeah, of course it's body horror, but I feel like Cronenbergian is like an adjective that people just really give to something that's just body horror. Not that that's a bad thing, but I feel like also without spoilers, your film really gets at the tragedy of what's in David Cronenberg movies. Like, my heart breaks like 7 times over watching this movie. Not to deter anyone, it's still a good watch, but like, you really you got the sadness of God, that poor girl and her immigrant story. Can you talk about the scripting stage? I know you're credited with a bunch of other writers, but can you break down uh, how it came across your desk?
Yeah, so it was written by Hui Ling Ao and Mia Maramara, so two Asian New Zealand women, and then I came in as director and sort of worked with them, worked on the script a little bit more just to kind of bring my vision to it. But I mean, I love what you said because for me that's what's like most interesting is how the body horror actually is used in order to tell the story, to emphasize the story that this character's going on. And I love the idea that you're taken on this ride, which is hopefully it's sometimes hilarious and sometimes, absolutely horrific. And I'm really pleased for you to say, sometimes emotional. And I think that only heightens the experience of the horror moments if you're actually like engaged and committed to being going through this journey with the character. Um, and I think that what's so great about the script is it's all tied into itself. Like it's a beautiful sort of rubber band of all of the rubber band ball of all of these ideas that feed back into themselves. For example, body horror, and we're talking about like sort of beauty ideals, unattainable beauty ideals. Um, and it makes perfect sense to kind of use gore and the body to talk about this unobtainable obsession that we all have with like showing up in the world with a face that apparently people will approve of. Um, and same with the sort of locations and the cinematography and everything. Like, hopefully, that all builds into the ideas that are at the core for this character.
Hmm, awesome. We're almost at the end, but just be quick. This has been a pleasure. But before you go, I know you're talking about Grafted as your first feature, but do you have anything else coming up that you want to tell people about?
Yeah, so my grandfather was a political prisoner in the Gulag, and
Oh, wow.
yeah, he attempted to escape one year, and it's this amazing story of this tunnel that he and his friends dug. And I got thinking like about, what could be the next thing that I focus on that feels really personal. Like my grandfather was a hero, a vodka making, vodka making larger than life survivor. And I thought about what would be really interesting is to take that story and bring it into a modern day context. And so I'm working on a script now called Mice, which is kind of inspired by his story and should be fully, let's just say that like mainly based in underground, like fully intense, suspenseful, freaky, but also kind of otherworldly. So yeah, it's a little bit of a spin. It's not exactly on the nose, but I'm really excited about what's happening here. And I feel like I've got my grandfather's spirit with me. I was just looking to see if I had a photo of him there, but I don't.
Oh, you were looking to see if he was a ghost behind you.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Nodding approvingly because that sounds absolutely incredible. Um, but yeah, Sasha, this has been great, and thanks so much for your time. I'll let you know in
Thank
the
you. It was great chatting.
yeah,
Really appreciate it.
yeah. Bye, Amanda. Thank you again.